Hey guys, it's me Feliciel, and today we're back with a new type of video. And I wanted to bring you guys along to show you the process entirely behind making these coasters. So I guess you could be considering this like a DIY / tutorial type of video, but I really hope that this will be helpful and might inspire you to paint your own coasters. So let me give you a bit of a backstory. It's been a year that Gavin and I, Gavin is my boyfriend, we've been looking to buy a set of coasters, but either A, we wouldn't agree on the design, or B, it was out of our budget. I completely understand if like an Etsy seller or a small business is doing the coasters themselves for the reason that they would price the coasters. And don't get me wrong, I completely understand why these coasters would be expensive when they are made by hand by small creators. I'm not throwing shade at them, but I thought that I could be saving that money and doing it myself. And I'd also be a hypocrite for sending them shade when I am potentially considering adding coasters to my shop. So it was for these reasons that I thought that I could be painting coasters myself and choose what I wanted to have on them. So I guess that the first part of this video should be a list of materials. So here we go. So firstly, what would make sense is getting a set of plain cork coasters. This was actually a set of 22 that I got off of Amazon, and I think it was for around 15 euros. Then of course I used some acrylic paint, so I just used old paint that I had laying around. I do recommend having a lot of white paint, so I have a bigger tube of white and normal tubes of acrylic paint. And you'd also want some brushes. I did find that I didn't have enough of a fine detail brush, which was a bit of an issue, but just use any brush that's made for acrylic paint, and followed by some varnish. This particular one I've had for like 6 years, and it's just like glossy all surface varnish. I wasn't sure it was gonna work, but it worked fine, so get some. And to apply it, I just used this random old brush that I had laying around because I didn't want to damage the brushes I had already. And that's really all you need. Say hi to Ricotta, by the way. Hello there! So we are now moving on to the voiceover part. The first step of the making of these coasters was to cover them in white paint on both sides. I did this so that the beige or brownish color of the cork wouldn't affect too much the colors of the painting that I wanted to do on top. So having this white, neutral base was very helpful. I decided to do 2 sets of 2 coasters since we are only living at 2 here, and when we do have people over, it's usually a small group of people, so 4 coasters seemed like a good start for getting into this crafting adventure. I probably will be doing more in the future, but don't worry, I'll record it and show it as well, but I wanted to start off with a smaller project since this was the first time I was trying it out. So let me bring you along the process one by one. Starting off with this moon design. I first sketched it on the coaster, but somehow the pencil mark wasn't very clear, so I went back at it with a ballpoint pen for the outlines, because I could not see myself randomly paint this without having a sketch first. So for the painting part, I first start off with the background. I found that this way works best for me since you can clearly see the outline with the main design, and I wanted to do that later. I didn't want to just do a plain boring color since this is a moon and I wanted to make some sort of halo effect around it so that you can see that there is light that is bouncing on it. It was mainly just to add a little realistic touch and add some detail. Then I went on to paint the moon itself with some shadows under the clouds and the little star, and finally added the clouds with a purple tint. But I did have a little bit of struggles with the stars since the yellow that I used was actually pretty transparent. but I managed to find another paint for the other coasters. Moving on to the next design, I do the sketch and use a compass to make sure that the sun will be nice and round and outline it with a ballpoint pen again. So for the background, I go in with the similar tint of dark blue again, and I also went in with the lighter blue so that there's the bounce light effect again. I did want to use similar tones since these are going to be a set of 2 coasters. This part did get a little bit tricky since the dark blue did dry before I wanted to add the lighter tones, so smoothing out the colors and blending them in together wasn't easy. After this, I started painting the sun with a creamy yellow, so this was a different paint, which was much more opaque and much better, with some accents with this brighter yellow. And then I put some baby blue where I wanted to add shadows. I also wanted to keep the same colors as the moon coaster, so that's why I chose that color. And to finish off, I went back in with a ballpoint pen to brighten up the line art again, and it did get muted down under the paint, so that's why I went back in it. And I thought that the line art really brought something more to this coaster, so that's why I did it. And this concludes the first set of coasters. I wanted the other set to have a ghost theme, so I first off do the sketch on my iPad to then move it to the coaster, with, as usual, first with a pencil and then making a clearer sketch with a ballpoint pen. Then going to the background. This time it was a little bit more tricky because I wanted it to be slightly more complex, so it's going to be a ghost in a field, so half the sky, half the field. And I wanted the horizon line to be a bit curved so that it would add a bit more dynamic to this coaster. Once the base layer of the green dried, I went again in to add more details and tones, starting with some yellow flowers and blue dots. But I wasn't too worried about making it look refined since it was just to add small touches, and the point wasn't to make it very clear. Then I went in to paint the ghost with this very nice lilac color with some bluish shadows that are very subtle, and adding the eyes with the ballpoint pen again. And then is the last design. So this one was a fancy ghost with a cup of tea and his little hat. Then moving on to the background, I used the same blue shade as the previous one, just that it looks more cohesive, and same for the lilac color of the ghost and its blue shadows, because I really wanted the 2 coasters to look like they were part of one same set. So I then finished off by adding the same blue color of the background to the sides of the coaster and the back, just so that it looks more cohesive and finished. I did do that for all the other coasters, but I haven't filmed it, but it really adds an extra touch that makes it much nicer. I moved on to the details with adding the grey hat, where I still wanted to add some values because otherwise it kind of looked flat, so I added some whites and darker greys, and then the cup of tea. My brush was not the best for doing this, so I did struggle a lot for making more refined details. You might notice that I still worked with the same blue shades for these items so that the coaster would once again be more cohesive and that it would be the same blue shadows as the ghost itself. Then finally I just went in with the same blue of the background just to pass another coat, since it did look a little bit streaky and transparent on certain spots. And then the final details of the steam and adding the eyes, and that's basically it. And the final step to this is adding the varnish on both sides of each coaster. I found the varnish that I used laying around at my flat, but I'm pretty sure I've had it, no joke, for like 6 years. So I was very scared of using it because it could have ruined all this hard work. So I did have some issues with the sun coaster having a little bit of smudging because I used some ballpoint pen. So to avoid that, the next ones, I just put a blob of varnish and gently spread it around where there was some ink. Because I noticed that the issue was making long streaks continuously, was making the ballpoint pen just smudge everywhere. So the moment I found this solution, everything was going great. I would just do one side, let it dry for half a day, flip it the other side and do the back and the corners of the coaster, and it would be fine. The first one I varnished, I got very scared about it ruining it because it made, well, as you can see, this very clear white streaky layer on top, but I did let it dry and it all went fine. And the last issue I had with this was for the ghost one in the field. When the varnish dried and I tried to take off the coaster off of the cardboard that I was laying to protect my table, I had a little bit of cardboard stuck to the edge of the coasters that I didn't manage to unstick, but it's not too visible, so that's fine. And overall, I really do recommend that you varnish them because it does make the coaster seem a lot sturdier, and it will really seal the painting so that it will be able to live longer. And yeah, I hope you really enjoyed seeing the process behind making these. Make sure to comment down below if you did like it and give me some feedback. You can also like the video if you liked it, and subscribe for more art content. And yeah, that's about it. See you next time. Tschüss!